flip this up, destroy that monster. So it's 1-for-1 removal, and your opponent used 3 cards to get Hinokazu Suji out. So you're totally happy if you're Sakuretsu armoring Hinokazu Suji. And so it's even if it had the clause where it said, actually no, I think if you could special summon it, it would be way better. The fact you can't special summon it either, you can't really like cheat it out. So I think that just makes it really difficult. We also have the reverse of this guy too. That instead of making your opponent discard their whole hand, you actually draw 5 cards if it deals battle damage.
Was that one also not good?
It was also not good. Yes. For you would think drawing 5 cards is crazy, but
getting there is hard. Yeah,
getting there is too hard. People wanted it to work. Trust me, people wanted it to work. Okay, this is a cool card. I'm curious your thoughts on this one.
All right, Prohibition. When you activate this card, declare 1 card name. Cards with that name and their effects can't be used. Cards on the field before this card is activated are not affected. You activate this card, declare 1 card name. Cards with that name and their effects cannot be used. Cards on the field before this card is activated are not affected.
So to clarify one thing, this is a continuous spell. So this would be like a one-sided stadium.
Heck
I mean, that
yeah.
seems pretty good. If you just know what you're playing against, you just say, would that include monsters? Like, they wouldn't be able to activate any monster that you named?
Yeah, so Prohibition's a weird card. It's had like some corrections in like how it works over time. But basically, if you declared a monster, they would not be able to even summon that monster to the field.
Seems kind of broken. That seems pretty good. You play 3 of these, and you open. If you only 3 of these in your hand, could you play all 3 immediately? So you could just lock out 9 cards of your opponent's deck, but 9 most important cards of your opponent's deck. The question would just be like, you have to know what they're playing. But I assume Yu-Gi-Oh is pretty similar to most of the card games, where once they play a card or two, you have a rough idea of what's happening and what you're preparing to go up against. I assume. I mean, this card seems broken. It would be broken in Pokemon. It seems broken in Yu-Gi-Oh. It's
What
probably
would be the play pattern for this in Pokemon? Like, what would you be calling for the Pokemon viewers watching this?
Well, I think it would have to be limited to. This wouldn't be able to interact with Pokemon specifically, because it'd be too good then. So it would have to be. It would have to be like a one-sided stadium. Well, if it's a stadium card, it wouldn't be that good because your opponent could easily replace it. So it wouldn't be that good. If you play but it would be one of those things where like I say that, but some of the most powerful cards in the past have been stadium cards, but you like play 4 of them. Like you max out your count. Like we recently had a card called Path to the Peak, which shut down all abilities from all rule box Pokemon. And most Paths to the Peak decks play 4 Path because it is so easy to remove stadiums. But if you just do it over and over and over again, just drop their hand a little bit maybe, then you get them to stick for a turn or 2, you can just win the game with that, right?
What about this? What if you tied this to the ability of like a bench supporter type Pokemon? So that way, it's like your opponent can't easily remove it.
Then it would be insanely broken for sure. Well, if you can't limit Pokemon, you were just like limiting trainers. Like you said,
yeah, like saying
you
like
can't
anything
play.
besides Pokemon. Anything besides Pokemon.
Then it would be interesting. Depends what stage of a Pokemon it would be. It depends on stage 1 or stage 2, because that's a big limiting factor for setting Pokemon up and how powerful they can be, or how powerful they usually are in like a format or a meta.
Say stage 1.
Yeah, so on stage 1, and you said like your opponent can't play Ultra Ball, that'd be pretty good. Or can't play Research, or can't play. I guess the base will be like playing Iono's like the Can Destruction card in the format right now. So that'd be big. If you're playing the aggressive deck, you evolve to a stage 1 and say you can't play Iono for the rest of the game. Yeah, this would probably be a pretty good card. Maybe not broken. It would be really, really good. Seems really, really good. I'm going to say this card is broken and was probably banned.
Prohibition is an interesting card. I think you are 100% correct about everything you said about this card. It's funny because on paper, this card seems like it would be broken, but in practice, it doesn't seem to play out the way that people want it to. I'm not sure what it is about Prohibition. There's always times, even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, people have tried to sideboard this card thinking, oh, if I just Prohibition, either their best monster that gets their whole combo started, or maybe their best answer to my board, hypothetically, then this card is broken. This card is crazy. And even this is an old card as well. Older Yu-Gi-Oh, they also tried to sideboard, sometimes even main board this card for that exact same reason.
There's too many
for whatever reason,
options
this card just
nowadays.
never comes to fruition and it has just fallen by the wayside. It's a card that people always look to and they're like, damn, this card seems like really good. And then they try it and they're like, this is the worst card I've ever played, and they'll just stop. And it just never came to fruition. So funny to hear your take on it, because this card is, I don't want to say it's bad. I want to say it's like okay. There are probably a non-zero number of games where this card has maybe won a game for someone. There are so many better things you could be doing. Instead of playing a card that specifically stops one card from being played, we have, because we can interact with the opponent's turn and such, we have just cards that are omni-negates that can negate any type of card. So if you could negate any type of card reactively to what your opponent's doing, why would you proactively call something you think they're going to do when you can just react to it and ensure it's going to get negated, if that makes sense? And I think that's just kind of the big issue with this card.
That makes sense. So even there's just too many options. They still have too many options, even if you do limit what would be one of the more powerful options.
Correct. You would compared to something like Prohibition, you'd rather have a card like Rivalry of Warlords that is going to stop one specific thing, and especially coming out of the sideboard, that this card is designed to be played against like X deck, and that's a just much better way to go about it instead of like calling the best card they might have and hoping that gets you there.
Ain't gonna
It's a
matter.
little bit too situational, or a little bit too broad of options to choose from.
Click to grab
Yay.
this slogan t-shirt with
Notice how
90%
every
off
commercial
on
pretty much is
Tammy Now.
AI.
The fabric of
It's
this
not like an agenda or anything if they're trying to get people used to.
Double the original attack of a monster equipped with this card, while your life points are higher, have the original attack.
But for bit of context, this is an equipped spell. I believe you guys have like items that you can put on your Pokemon, so I think this would be the equivalent of that. And since you don't have life points, we can say you have less prize cards than your opponent instead of life points for this.
Yeah, so we currently have some tool cards. We actually have a tool card right now, so if your opponent has more prize or less prize cards remaining than you do 30 more damage.
Not double.
Not double. Yeah, this will be broken in Pokemon for sure. Because this will be broken in Pokemon. Because like the comeback decks will play around this pretty heavily. If you utilize it with, they mentioned the rule box Pokemon with multiple prize cards, non-rule box Pokemon with 1 prize card, so you can make your non-rule box Pokemon way more powerful to be able to compete. So this will be broken in Pokemon for sure. In Yu-Gi-Oh, it doesn't seem a lot more situational. Although I could see it being, the thing is, it's like, it feels like you never want to play 3 of these because it's like a comeback card. So drawing these in the early game would really slow you down and be really, really bad. And drawing it at the right time seems tough. Although I guess I don't know how much like spell card search exists in Yu-Gi-Oh, where you can like just pull out a specific spell card you want on the turn you need it to like close out a game.
What if I show you this to equip Megamorph too? Does this change your mind?
Just how much attack it has?
Well, there's 8,000 life points in Yu-Gi-Oh for context.
Yeah, so this would be like, I guess like I could see like some kind of combo deck where you just kind of you play the game through like a more board control aspect and then you go for a big one hit at some point. So I'm gonna say this card could be okay. It's not, I don't think it's I don't think it's broken. So I don't think it was banned. It seems like maybe there's like a deck or two out there that like as like a combo deck, like that's just how you play through this card pretty heavily, control the board as much as possible, get to the end game, and then this comes down to close out a game. So maybe okay, but yeah, definitely not banned.
Let's talk about Megamorph. Megamorph is very funny. So in the OCG, that is our Asian territory. The OCG is separate from the TCG in respect to card releases. Their ban list is different. Everything happens in like Asia first, and then we get it a few months later. Yeah. And so Yu-Gi-Oh existed in Asia a few years before it existed for us here in the States. And so Megamorph was printed actually alongside the other card I showed you, the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. In the very early days, like you said, there was a combo deck where you could play another monster that would summon the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon out to the field, cheat it out effectively. You wouldn't have to summon it the way that it's supposed to be summoned. And because you had to pay life points to activate that effect, you then had lower life points than your opponent, assuming this is like the first turn of the game. So then you could activate Megamorph to equip it to the Ultimate Dragon and immediately just one-shot your opponent if you're going second. And this combo was so good by old Yu-Gi-Oh standards that they banned parts of the combo 5 days after they released some of these cards for people to play with them. Megamorph was obviously one of the key pieces of that combo, but it was never banned. I believe they only ever limited this card to 1 copy at worst. But it kind of sucks because people wanted to play with the combo and they never really got the chance to. Megamorph, like you said, it's a very situational card. By modern standards, this card is unplayable. By old Yu-Gi-Oh standards, it was fine. I don't think you would really go out of your way to play this card. I think it's kind of like what you said. If you have like some sort of like application for it, one thing you didn't pick up on is you can actually equip this to your opponent's monster, and if you can make it weaker if you have the higher life point or the lower life points, however that works. But you can equip it to your opponent's monster as sort of like a pseudo removal card, so it has like some application outside of big thing hit face, which is what most people use it for. Yeah. But it was never like it was like fine. I don't want to say it was like the worst card ever. If it was on the limited list, surely it could have been that bad. But the big, just make a 9,000 attack dragon hit hard. That was the dream. It was something people didn't really get to do too often, but it was a very goofy card. Very goofy card. But my modern standards is just Yu-Gi-Oh is hardly combat centric now. I think that's one of the biggest differences between Yu-Gi-Oh and like a lot of card games is that equip spells generally are just really bad because they just die with the monster. And Yu-Gi-Oh having so much removal and interaction, this has to be like the best equip card ever printed. Like it has to say win the game, otherwise it's just not worth playing. And that's why Megamorph was good in the old days.
That makes sense. Because you're basically going 2 for 1, right?